Hi, linear algebra students. So at the end of the linear independence section, I gave you this exercise to solve. It was an example that was given to students in a final exam, so it's important to realize that you might be expected to do this in an evaluation. So a very simple theorem: if UV is linearly independent and there's some vector W that is not in the span of UV, then the set UVW is also linearly independent. First of all, if you haven't tried this exercise, close this video and have it a try on your own. I'm giving you this hint. It's very well done using a technique called proof by contradiction. And the proof by contradiction, the way it works is that we will assume that this is linearly dependent and prove that the rest cannot be true. Okay, so if this is linearly dependent, then either UV is linearly dependent or W is not in the span. Okay, so you should be continuing watching this video only if you gave an honest attempt to the problem, or if you're completely clueless. Like if you've tried everything and you're like, oh no, it doesn't go to something really concrete. Okay, so as said, we will prove this by contradiction. So let's suppose that UVW is LD. So if this was linearly dependent, then in this case, you would have, there would be weights C1, C2, C3, not all zero, for which C1 U plus C2 V plus C3 W is equal to 0, okay? So what I did is, knowing that this set is linearly dependent, I know that there's a linear dependence relation that exists, and I'm writing it out. I don't know what are C1, C2, C3, but I do know that they're not all zero. Okay. So so then, first of all, let's have a look here. We have to be careful. Oh yes, yes. First of all, as you can see, C3 cannot be 0. And the reason for that is because U and V are linearly independent. So since UV is Li, then it forces C3 not equal to 0. Okay? Otherwise, C1 U plus C2 V would be equal to 0 with C1, C2 not both 0, and that would contradict linear independence of the set UV. And UV would be LD. Okay. Then this means that we can actually isolate W. So we can isolate W. Okay, so how do we do it? Well, we just send these two on the other side and divide by C3. So we will get that W is, well, actually, let's go a little bit slower, okay? So we will have C3W is equal to negative C1U minus C2V. And then dividing both sides by C3, which is just a number, would give us that W is negative C1 over C3U minus C2 over C3 V. Okay, now keep in mind that this is allowed since it has been established that C3 is not 0. So let's actually write this down. So this is allowed since C3 is not equal to 0. So we have been established this, we established this over there. So as a result, we prove that W is a linear combination of U and V. So W is a linear combination of U and V. And this contradicts the fact that W is not in the span. So, which contradicts the fact that W is not in the span of UV. Okay, so okay, so basically this ends the proof. I will just say, okay, so UV W. Oh, actually, I will just write an extra step. Cannot be linearly dependent. That's what we actually proved, okay? We proved that if this was linearly dependent, then either this is linearly dependent or W is in the span, right? So these two statements cannot be true both at once if this set was linearly dependent. And since there's only two possibilities, linearly dependent or linearly independent, then we prove that this set is actually linearly independent. And this is the end of the proof. I hope this helped. Honestly, if you attempted this exercise and got somehow the underlying idea, I'm already very happy. So if you thought, for example, about isolating W, like you wouldn't necessarily get full marks in that question, but you wouldn't get 0 either. This is actually a very important part of the proof. It's also important to realize that even if C1, C2, C3 are not equal to 0, C3 could be 0. So you have to treat that case separately. This is also an important part of the proof. So this is how you could get partial marks in a question. So that's why you should attempt the problem first without having watched this, and then watch it after and see what parts you were missing or maybe you went a little bit too fast. I hope this video helped. See you in the next video.